and I'm talking about granite. We're looking at the issues that the granite miners are facing in the country. But then we want to find out what is the significance if they are having any challenges. Now, I know to construct any decent road, you need granite. To construct any overpass or any building, you need granite. But aren't there too many of these stones for a few miners to be worried if they are being encroached on? Apparently not so. But if it's not so, then we want to ask, how is it possible that a mine that is in operation, that is being blasted on a weekly basis or monthly basis, somebody settles there to build their house on it? It's a whole maze, but we need an education on what's happening, the imminent danger and the future prospect of this valuable stone we found dotted across the country. My name is Nana Sakwa, and this is PM Express, and when I come back, we are talking granite. Don't move. Thank you very much for staying, and we are talking granite today, but particularly the challenges that the miners in this sector are facing, the loggerheads they have with the state and also landowners, i.e. the chiefs. We want to find out and get to the bottom of this issue. Neo Samuels, the Minister in charge of Lands and National Resources, will join this conversation to also help us with if there's any policy which is being put in place to make sure that this problems cease, that doesn't go further. With me in the studio is John Ajedudu, who's a geologist, and his specialty is in natural and mineral exploration. He's an expert geologist. He knows all about this. You're welcome, John.
Thank you.
And then I have Mr. E.Y. Sapo. He's the CEO of ESM Quarry, an executive member of the Council for Quarry Association. Commercial Quarries Association. So, you know, he's having the problems, and he's going to tell us what the value of this is. And as a state, should we protect it? Should we have laws to look after it, or there's too much of it, so we should go home and sleep? But let me start with John. John, I want an education because I know some of my viewers may not know when we say granite, what we're talking about.
Thank you. For education purposes, let us say that we all live on this earth, and we live on the solid part of the earth. A typical example is that let us equate the earth to an egg. It has 3 concentric shells. We all learn from our geography days. We have the inner part, meaning the core. Then the egg, that is the yellowish part. Then after the yellowish part, we have the white one. We call it on the earth mantle. And the crust can be likened to the hard shell of the egg. And that is what we are sitting on. And we are sitting on because it is solid. And so we are sitting on the rock. But the earth is composed of many types of rocks. Genetically, or what you can say that on the basis of genesis, you will say that we have igneous rocks, we have metamorphic rocks, and we have sedimentary rocks. And typical of them are granite, basalt, sandstones, cositic sandstones, so many types of rock. But this granite which we are talking about is an igneous. And let us look at that igneous, how it originates. Assuming that an egg falls down a little bit, is broken, or you boil an egg under pressure, and the inner part comes out over the shell, you will feel that some inner part has redeposited or deposited on the outer shell.
Sure.
So the inner part of the earth is believed to be molten and composed of magma.
Okay.
And when by geological processes, other through volcanic action, earthquakes, or earth movements, it is either compressed or otherwise, and this molten magma finds itself onto the surface. It means that it has migrated onto the surface of the earth.
Is that what solidifies to become
and
granite?
It solidifies and becomes, part of them becomes granite. And so the granite is the acidic part of the molten magma. And it is composed of quartz, feldspar, and biotite. So a rock is basically a naturally occurring substance which is solid, composed of mineral aggregates.
Because I know we always talk about how blessed we are in the country. With regards to granite, I mean, how many or how much granite do we have? How available it is?
Thank you. As I said from the beginning, you cannot have one stone occupying every surface of the earth or the Ghanaian surface. So we have different kinds of rocks. And the rock formation, how they were formed, fall in line with certain geological formations. Ghana has a territory of 238,000 square kilometers. And the Voltaian and the Kita Basin, where you cannot find the granite, is about 98,000 square kilometers. So when you deduct 98,000 from 238, you'll be able to know what is remaining. And what is...
I always thought Ghana was 93,000 square kilometers.
It's square miles.
Ah, square miles. Okay.
So, apart from that, we have the Acrean, the coastal formations, Secundinian, and other formations which you cannot find granite. So the granites are basically found in the Birimian metasediments or metavolcanics. Or within the belts.
You have to speak English. My viewers, we only speak English here. Metaformics and meta.
So you can find the granite within the Birimian formation. Why do we say Birimian formation? The rocks have different layers, different origins, and different positions. And we studied initially somewhere around 1913 to about 1924. We studied the rocks formation of the Birim area. So anywhere in Ghana where we have similar formations, we say it is the Birimian.
Okay.
When we study the rocks around the Volta, anywhere we find similar rocks, we say it's the Voltaian.
Okay.
So it's not anything strange. Good. So we say the Birimian. It is within the Birimian formations. Okay. The formation which has been formed in Ghana, and these granites are found within either the Birimian volcanics or the metasediments.
Is it precious and is it scarce?
So now, because of its physical properties, some of the physical, like hardness, color, resistance to the weather, this granite, in fact, is considered to be the hardest rock. And you know that when you want the best rock, you have to go for the granite, and also prestige. And because of these physical properties, granite is used in many fields, in construction, buildings, bridges, tunnel, concrete works, pylons, that is concrete low voltage transmission lines, poles, sea defense walls, and name them. Every type of construction.
Quickly before I move on to Mrs. Sapon, you know, mostly they are like black and white, that shiny one. That's also granite, right? The black and white, the one you see on Shire Hills. You know, it's like black with shiny dots.
Yes. So the Shire Hills one is called It
falls under granite?
No, it is within the family, but not actually a granite. It's called Garnetiferous gneiss. The shining colored one is a garnet, and the garnet is a mineral. It has a high abrasive, and because of that, it is used for polishing, sandpaper. It is milled in different grades or shapes, and then be smeared on a paper, and because of its abrasiveness, it is able to use it for shining. So it's a garnet studded nice. So it is a stronger rock, but the strongest is the granite. And the granite is called feldspar and biotite. That is the composition. All other minerals compositions can be found, but this is the major mineral found within the granite.
Mr. Sapong, I have a diploma now in granite. I have a diploma now in granite. But do you mine granite?
Yes.
Now, if it's the hardest rock or the most solid rock, it means you need to use dynamite to blast it.
That's right.
So I find it quite intriguing that some of the problem is that people are moving closer to the blasting site.
Thank you very much, Nana. This encroachment thing that we are talking about, I mean, you can't just understand. Because before you find a deposit, I don't think it will be closer to where people are living. So you have to go to the interior to find the deposit. You go to Eureka Survey, they are able to show you where you can get granite to mine. And obviously you have to construct your own road, and there will be no access to electricity. You have to do that. And as you are saying, we operate also a magazine where we keep the explosives, which everybody knows that's very, very dangerous this thing to live around. But unfortunately, you won't understand. Before you realize people are coming, 1, 2, and sometimes.
Is it like people who work with you that build there, or?
No, that is not the case. You see, according to the law, or the Minerals Commission law, when they give you the concession, you need what we call a buffer. So at least there should be a land which will be protecting your quarry because of fry, rocks, and then the dust. And the law says you should have about 500 meters buffer. So either you talk to the chiefs and buy the land, or by the law, that land should be there. Because we called we do what we call town and country planning.
So this buffer will be at the circumference of your mine?
Yes.
Wow.
That's about 500 meters. That's what is in the law. So the people living there, they are just squatters. They haven't got permit to live there. They just come, and the type of houses that they put on there, probably within a day, they are able to put up building and live in the next day. So that is the problem.
See, what I'm trying to get from what I'm trying to get is, is there not plenty rocks anywhere that you can just move and just go and blast somewhere else? Is there any need to protect? Why can't we let people live there and then you move somewhere else?
Now, for how long can we continue to do that? Presently in Accra, the only quarry left in Accra is Regimanuel Quarry, former CP site at Ablekuma. And
that's the
only quarry left in Accra.
Doing
commercial quarry in Accra. That's the only quarry. So imagine that Regimanuel is no more, and you need to have stones to work for construction. And you agree with me that in Ghana, we've not even started construction. All the roads in Ghana are not tarred. The drains, everything is not done. We are just living, just occupying the land. So these are communities that we need, and it's not everywhere that you can find granite. And trust me, cost of establishing a quarry, the minimum you need is about $3 million.
Wow. And
the returns, it is not today or tomorrow. It's not something that you can just go in and make profit. You have to mine maybe about 15, 20 years before you can realize something.
Mr. Sapong, we have this impression that it's fairly quick returns.
No, that's not the case at all. Everybody in this country who is operating a quarry, if you ask him, they will tell you. If you ask them, they will tell you.
I see.
It's not an easy job at all.
Are there any policies to, let's say, well, there's granite deposit here, so it should be reserved and no inhabitants, I mean, nobody should build on it, or to protect it for future use?
Well, I believe so, because if you go to Geological Survey Department, they have records in place where they can show you in their office. When you go here, you can find granite. So it was preserved those days. But today, I don't think, because the laws are not working.
How much of this is affecting the cost of production, i.e. Construction, i.e. roads or bridges or flyovers?
Let me give you an example. This N1 that we have,
yeah,
the newly N1 that we have, that road alone, I think the minimum they used in terms of quantity was about 400,000 cubic meters. That road alone. So you can imagine.
Just from Tetekwashi to Malam?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
So who supplied that and where did it come from?
Well, I think many quarries. They couldn't take it from only one quarry. Yes. Many quarries.
You wanted to come in?
Yes. I wanted to say that granite is a rare or a scarce resource. I told you about the 98,000 square kilometers of the Voté and the Kita. You will not find granite. So if you are working in Tamale, in Bupe, in Salaga, in any other town or locality within the Voté, then you have to cut the granite from other Wa, Sunyane, Techiman, Kumasi, and many other places within the Birimian. I've told you, I've shown you that it is only within the Birimians you have the granite. In the Voltairean, not that you cannot have the granite, but they are so deep-seated that possibly you may not ever be able to mine. It may be about 3 kilometers or 4 or 5 below. And it is only within the Birimian, that's where sometimes you have the hilly type or some form of mountainous without any trees, without any overburden that you can easily mine. So it is a scarce resource, and it's not everywhere, even within the Birimian, that you have the granite. It is not everywhere. So we have to protect. The real answer is that the solution is that we have to realize that it is a scarce resource. We have to protect and we have to manage it well, that we prevent this encroachment. If there are so many quarries which has been encroached upon. If you go to Opekuma in Kaswa on the left, going to Awutu or whatever, how do they call it? On the left, it has been encroached, 2 quarries, common deposits. If you go to Nsawam, the highway quarry at Nsawam, it has been engulfed. And somebody has even built Asamankese. When you go to Asamankese, we are failed men. We know so many things are happening. The time has come for us to take the book.
Well, thank you very much for staying, and we are talking about granite mining. And indeed, as a nation, if we're going to embark on an infrastructure revolution, indeed, we're even setting up a fund for infrastructure. So when that fund matures, we will need granite to build whatever it is that the fund was set up for. But here we are, encroaching on the same granite, living on it, and the very few that is left hindering those who are mining. Let me go to Mr. Sapon. Sapon, so what? You close at 5 o'clock, go home. By the time you come tomorrow, there's somebody there. I mean, how does it work? Or they come and say, look, I'm buying a portion of the mine to live on.
And that is not the case. I've already told you they are just squatters. Sometimes they are very violent, and even your security alone cannot match them. They come in group as land guards, and when you close like maybe 5 o'clock, the next day before you come, one single room is there. If I take you to my quarry site, you find it. Today, I went to Nsumia, where Piabo had his first quarry, Swede contractor, you remember he built the Accra and Samu Road.
Yeah.
The quarry has been encroached upon. And then Sumia quarry also has been encroached upon. And the saddest thing today I found, we have one explosive magazine there where we buy explosives. And the encroachment you see there, just within 5 meters or less, people have built around the magazine, explosives. And it will surprise you that they've been supplied with electricity power.
Wow.
Should something happens, this is explosives. But people, they don't care. And the authorities also doesn't care. Why should electricity company give power to people who are living around explosive magazine? It baffles me. I can't understand just today.
Let me go to the phones and acknowledge Mr. Neo Samuels, who is the Minister in charge for Lands and Natural Resources. Let him shed some light to see what's the way forward in this. Neo, sir, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us and sparing us your time. Nia, I have two gentlemen in studio. I have Mr. E.Y. Sapong, who owns a quarry, and then I have John Ejay Dodu, who's a geologist. And we are talking about granite deposits and the mining. But the challenge mainly is that the mines are being encroached. Granite is in limited supply. And they want to look from government-wise, are there any policies to protect what is left so that for infrastructure's sake, you know, you and I can have a cheaper road?
Yes, certainly. Mr. J. Dudu, I'm sure, and also the gentleman who you said owns mine.
Mr. Sapong,
Mr. Sapong, who owns a quarry, are very much aware that there are so many rules and regulations about quarrying. To acquire a quarry, it involves not only applying to the Minerals Commission after deciding which site you want to work on, and then the Minerals Commission processes the application. And this also includes an application to the Environment Ministry, EPA in particular, for an environmental permit to operate. In other words, the activity should not impact negatively on the surrounding community and surrounding areas. So all these things are some of the regulations that we have in place to ensure safe and sustainable quarrying, which fits into the life and the activities of anybody else around the quarry. Then, of course, there's also a buffer zone which is established around the quarry site, up between 300 to 500 meters away from the quarry site. So I would say that these are some of the main processes that one has to go through in order to establish and to operate a quarry. But in recent times, what has been the problem is that as a quarry operates, all kinds of people keep building or imposing themselves into the area which is supposed to be the buffer zone. And then often it ends up in a conflict between the activity of the quarry and then the life and the lifestyle and then the activities of those who have, if you like, invaded the quarry buffer zone space. So these are some of the issues that we've been facing recently. But the policy is that the quarry should operate safely so that when there's a blast, what we call falling rock, does not harm anybody, and hence the large buffer zone. But people are reckless and don't care, so they invade the quarry space, the buffer zone space, and then they end up complaining that the quarry has rather invaded their space. So there's a conflict there, you know. So this is in brief some of the issues that I can outline immediately.
With regards to who's right and who's wrong, I mean, how do we determine? Do we determine by who moved in first or who owns the land?
It's not a question of ownership. It's a question of land use. You know, in Ghana, the surface rights are different from the ownership of mineral in the ground.
Yeah.
That's the Ghana Constitution, and that's what's provided in the Constitution and in the law. So it's one thing owning land, it's another thing having the right to the minerals. So somebody applies for, company applies to quarry. Once they're given a quarry license, and then the EPA comes in. Now the EPA would not allow the quarry to operate unless it satisfies itself at the time the EPA permit is given. Listen carefully. At the time, the date and the time the permit is given, that there are no communities within the area who will be impacted negatively, and that the buffer zone can be established and maintained. But often when the quarry starts operating, then you have this invasion. So who is right and who is wrong? Usually it is those who invade the quarry buffer zone space who are wrong.
I asked that because once they put up this thatch house or this one-bedroom house, the quarry owners seem to be so helpless because you can't make them homeless, you can't blast, you can't move them out. They become a lot helpless. I mean, so how do we counteract this issue?
What I would say to you in answer is that the district authorities should be more active, and they should respect the law in terms of protecting the quarry and the license holder from those who are invading the space that they shouldn't invade and trying to keep them out. I think that's what should happen. There should be more of a proactive approach so that we don't allow communities to grow where they were not present at the time of the issue of the quarry license and permit. So that's very important, and it's not happening. That's creating later on these conflicts, which sometimes lead to, community invading or attacking the quarry owners, or all kinds of things happen.
I mean, it's not your, let me quote and unquote palaver, but let me just, Mr. Sapon just said that he visited a mine this morning, and right by the stores where they sell the explosives are encroachers, but they've been, ECGs come there to give them electricity. I mean, that's just like an ignition.
That shouldn't happen. So what it is that, the authorities, when I say the authorities, I mean the district.
Yeah.
As you say yourself, why should people who are on land that has been set aside for quarrying activities or as a buffer be supplied with electricity and other amenities? That's making them comfortable and making them feel that they have a right to be there, and thereby compounding the problem for all of us. You'd have thought that the electricity company would withhold such a service because it would be clear that they should inquire and know that that service should not be provided for such people within such a space.
Yeah.
But they don't do that.
The other thing moving forward is there any plan in place to make granite to the construction site as cheap as possible, therefore placing strategic mines so that, let's say, there will be a policy to say no granite should travel more than 5 kilometers to any construction site. So you place them. I said that because we are a growing nation, and almost every road needs that, including mine going to Odumasa. So we need granite. So I mean, was there a policy to make sure that granites, mines are placed where you make the haulage much cheaper for development?
Unfortunately, my answer is this: the quarries, the granite mines, as you term them, are established by private companies, not by the state.
Sure.
Usually. And therefore, the private companies have a profit motive, a commercial motive, and decide where it's best for them to locate the quarry and to carry out their activities, find sales outlets, find customers, and sell. This is what it amounts to. So we do not really regulate to that extent of showing that anybody doing a road, for example, should not buy the road construction material, which includes granite, from a certain distance away, but must be limited to buying it within a certain close space, not far from the construction being carried on.
Surely, if you give them a quotation for haulage, they will choose the easier option if the stone is the same. But let me bring...
It's all about commercial activity and commercial stance, and they think about it commercially and in terms of their profit margins, and they take a decision.
Okay, let me bring Mr. Sapon in. Mr. Sapon owns the quarry. And I'm putting the same question to Mr. Sapon that do you think there should be a policy to say, look, Accra should have maybe 2 mines. Therefore, this deposit and that deposit, nobody should touch it until a private investor comes in. We move to Koforidia, we move to the north, and then say, look, this patch is reserved for because as a road contractor, I would want the cheapest or the quickest, shortest distance to get my deposit. Should there be a policy guiding this rule?
And now what I can say is that even the granite stones are scarce commodity.
Oh dear.
It is not everywhere that you can find granite. And unfortunately for us, as a taxpayer, if a road contract is given, it's the government who pays for the haulage. So let's assume that we are building Ridge Hospital and somebody is bringing stones all the way from Takoradi to Ridge.
So you have to pay for that?
You have to pay for that. And some people are also taking stones from Shire Hills to Kumasi to go and work, and government pays for that. There was a time people were taking stones from my quarry to Axim, and government pays for that.
Where's your quarry?
It's Liberia Kambulubra.
To Axim?
Yes.
That's a bit far.
I can tell you this for a fact. The contractor was working at Takoradi, and that time he couldn't find stones. He came to my quarry, and they were cutting it to Axim to go and work. So that is how the thing is. So it's not just about I making profit, but the government. You see, so, and also, if I may add,
okay.
If you think about the granite as only for road construction or building construction, you are making a mistake.
Okay.
It affects agriculture also, because the people are scooping the top soil of the land to mold blocks in Ghana. So let's say, formerly Kaswa was a vegetable community where they grew vegetables and other things. Now they've scooped all the sand, the surface, to make blocks. So let's assume that we have many quarries, which we can produce what we call the stone dust to make a concrete product. You're supposed to build either with a concrete product or a clay. You can mold a clay to become a brick and build, but not a sandcrete blocks. So it's not about not just about we, the commercial quarries, making money, but it's for the whole nation to gain.
You think we should think a bit further into this?
Of course, there are so many things that you can do with this granite. Even cutting them, making tiles. Even now, Ghana, people are manufacturing what we call the tile cement. That's the products that they are using. So nowadays, we are not importing so many tile cement because they can get the granite products, sieve it, and use it to make tile cement.
I'm coming back to this policy of haulage business. Should we deliberately map out whatever the reserves are so that government knows that, listen, every road I'm doing in Takoradi, look, you can't travel more than 10 kilometers because you need to get your supplies from here. Would that be too strict? Maybe that be too much of a policing state?
We were trying to collaborate with the Ghana Highways Authority formally. And then we told them, we had a meeting with them. Look, anytime you're trying to construct a road from location A to B, make sure you find the nearest quarry. That's why we said we call ourselves the Commercial Quarry Association. Okay. And everybody will agree. So when they are coming to bid, try to locate the nearest quarry deposit so that you can save money or government can save money. And sometimes when they come, they say, oh, this quarry is not so, what do I say? They are not organized, so we can't get everything. But if you allow me to bid, and I know that this construction company is buying so much, why wouldn't I go for a loan and then established very well so that I can get everything for them. They are not doing that. So virtually now, looking at this in the capital I told you, everybody in the quarry industry have a problem because you buy one only excavator and it costs you about $300,000. And you need 2 or 3 excavators only to operate efficient quarry. So when they come, they complain about efficiency. But if they allow me to bid, to know that I have contract A or B, why won't I go to the bank with my contract and then ask for money to establish very well? So that is some of the problems we have with the government agencies.
Nii, have I still got you?
Well, I wanted to talk, but I tried.
Oh, sure. Let me hear you, please.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, he made a point about the land and agriculture,
sure.
I think, if I'm right.
Yes.
And I don't know exactly what he wanted to say.
What he was saying is that
the activities of the quarry operators is negatively impacting on agriculture in the country.
No, what he was saying that if we paid attention to quarries, we'll have enough sand to make breeze blocks rather than getting concrete blocks. And therefore, we don't destroy the land surface which we need to plant our vegetables with. Generally saying that, you know...
it seems to me, I'm not an architect, nor am I an engineer or an expert in this, but it seems to me that when people build in Ghana, the system now, for now, is the cement mixed with sand. Unfortunately, that is the system in Ghana. Perhaps we may have to bring a completely new system into place where the sand is no longer needed. So my point I was going to make was that, yes, I realize and I agree with him that too much sand is being scraped off these topsoil. That's affecting the agricultural potential of the country. I agree with that, actually. But I also find it difficult to know what we can do to address that situation, especially because for now, the way we build is to mix cement with sand and get, you know, a mixture, which we use sometimes to make concrete or sometimes not to make concrete, and then we use it to build generally. And so that is a challenge. But another point he made, which I take and I accept, is that government projects ought to have a built-in factor to limit the cost of the granite that is brought in for the project, if that can be done. I agree entirely with that. The less the cost of the input, the more the government project, the less the government project will cost to the benefit of all of us. I agree with that.
I mean, Nii, I'm going to take a break and then I'll come back. And when I come back, you see, planning has never been the best of our fault. It's not your fault, not my fault, but we have all inherited, you know, a nation that doesn't really want to think 50 years ahead. We find it too far. Is this an area that maybe we need to come back to the table and relook? I'm going to take a break and come straight back, so stay tuned.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
You're welcome. Thank you very much for staying, and we are looking at the unassuming black gold or gray gold, if I may call it. And just before the break, I was just saying that we as a people have developed the culture of not planning. It is not part of us. It's breakfast. After that, when it's lunch, and after dinner, it's dinner. You don't eat breakfast and think of what's going to happen in dinner. It's too far. With regards to granites, and I'm coming to you, John, should we sit down and really look ahead and plan? And what would be in the plan? Save this one for 2020, use this one now, increase the mining here, lower it here. What would be a plan for such a resource for us?
Thank you very much. Before we can effectively plan, we have to know our resource. We have to map the granite deposits in the country. And
what's left of it?
Yes, and the organization which can be done, which can do it, is the Geological Survey. Okay. Basically, they do geology, they do mapping for minerals, exploration for minerals, and other rock resources. So it is a matter of empowering them, motivating them to map out this rare resource, and then to quantify it. You map, you evaluate, and of course, you quantify. Then you'll be able to strategize and say that this area is open, you can apply here, you can apply that, and of course, as for this area, you want to reserve for future purposes. And there, you cannot build around, you cannot do number 1, number 2, number 3. I was talking about institutional collaboration. You can bring in the Forestry Commission either to revegetate these areas for flora and fauna. We can empower this division of animal, what do you call wildlife, and bring in wildlife and use them as sanctuary, and it can at the same time attract.
So we save it for future use.
For future use, and also for any other purpose, so that it doesn't lie down for nothing. If you want to conserve it, some activity must go on. And so, for tourism, for wildlife, venture or whatever it is. So if we are able to do this, then of course we can preserve it for long. But I was also talking about education. Really,
quickly,
there are
so that I
some
go back to
people
the Minister of the
do not know exactly what this granite is used for. We have so many examples. And I think the local people, the landowners, the chiefs, the traditional authorities must also
have the education. Let me go on the phones and speak to Niosa, who's the Minister in charge of lands and natural resources. Nia, have I got you back on the line?
Yes, I've come back, so let me hear you now.
Well, thank you. I was just thinking about, is it time that we sit around the table and plan? Because now that we are having an infrastructure fund, once this fund is mature, we are going to build infrastructure. And I think one of the prime commodities we are going to need will be this granite. Should we sit around now and say, look...
Can I come in for a minute?
Sure.
We are already in the process of building massive infrastructure.
There we go.
Demonstrated by His Excellency the President.
There we go. So maybe it's time we sit down now and start planning as to where we save and where we don't save. And, is this time to start planning?
Yes. I agree entirely. I agree entirely that we ought, wherever possible, to do so, to cut costs. And I made that point earlier before your break. I'm all for cutting costs. So I know that, for example, there have been many road projects, especially, where the contractor decided to get or obtain a quarry license to the nearest source of granite. And this happens quite often. And I just want to chip this in, because I am the minister and I've issued a number of licenses for quarries which relate directly to a road project, because it was found necessary to get a road a contract, a quarry close by, and therefore often the contractor has had to set up his own quarry to feed the project. So this has also happened in order to cut costs. Just let you know.
Thank you very much. Because of time, that's all time will allow me, but I'll get Mr. Sapon to end for me.
Well, Nana, I will come in with what Mr. Jojo said. Building what we call a forest area around the quarry, it won't wash, it won't work. My friend, the CP, now Regional Quarry, built about 350 acres of forest around his quarry. It was been cut down.
Oh dear.
Cut down completely with no regard to the law at all. Spend money, build a forest, and that's what happened. So now what we are looking for is for the authorities to enforce the law. If somebody come to build on my land, a land I own, apart from concession, sometimes we even buy the land. I have bought my land. Somebody forcefully come, build on the land. You go to the police, there's nothing they can do. You go to the town and country plan, they can just come and stop them by writing stop work, produce permit. and it gives them even the power to build them more. And when my workers go there, they are issued with a death threat. So that is a problem. If really we want to develop, then authorities should come in, make sure this scarce commodity is protected.
We are going to continue this conversation because I think we need to find out what the planning and the local districts are also doing with this issue. We take it lightly because it's not everybody who is closer to a quarry. So we don't know the technicalities. Even though we drive on a road every day and live in a house every day, how it happened, we don't seem to know. But these are some of the things that we need to look into. So we will do that. But before I sign off, as I always remind you that on the 26th of March, all roads lead to Odumasan, Mr. Sapong. Even though it's a Kwauman, we'll have to come to Odumasan on the 26th of March to join us. My 5-year anniversary, Awodan Swas Reading Project, I said Kwame Boateng and Stood as a Chief, and a host of activities and culture will be at display. Thank you for watching. Tomorrow we'll be back to do this all over again. Gentlemen, thank you so much.